Hey everyone, welcome to my tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a video that looks, well, pretty much just like this does, in Animated Presenter. And it's only going to take us 12 drawings in total. The features are pretty self-evident. One is that it does fully automated lip sync to match the audio, and it has this wiggly motion that I think is a nice effect. Now, if you look closely, you might have already noticed that it's basically two images switching back and forth. So it's not very complicated, but it's a nice thing to implement. And finally, ease of reuse. So once we create these 12 images, we can reuse them and make a whole number of animated tutorials by substituting in a new audio track, rerun the lip sync program, which only takes a couple of minutes, and then render it out. So what software does this require? Well, for one, we have to make 12 drawings, so a drawing program. There's a lot of them out there. I think people have their personal preferences. I happen to use paint.net because I've gotten very used to it over time. More specifically, this is designed around OpenToonz capability. Now, this is a free open source animation program. In fact, it's a very powerful animation program, but it allows us to just put in drawings and it will just animate them and render videos. And we're going to plug two additional pieces of open source software into OpenToonz. One is Rhubarb, which provides the lip sync data. Rhubarb can analyze an audio file that consists of voices and generate a list in text format of mouth shapes for each cell in that video. Basically the same thing with FFmpeg. That gives OpenToonz the ability to export to a video file such as MP4. So again, we just download it and then tell OpenToonz where it is. And finally, a video editor. And again, everyone has their preferences. I'm using Camtasia because it's actually pretty good at doing these types of tutorial videos. So let's take a look at our 12 drawings. It's going to consist of 2 drawings that are the main background. I have one drawing. I'm going to show you the first one I did here. And that's one drawing. Obviously, I used layers and it took a few minutes to make. It consists of the background, this little built-in screen, and even the silly papers on the desk. That's all one drawing. And all I did for the second drawing was trace over it, but make it a little tiny bit different. That's it, very slightly different. Now the other drawings we need are mouth shapes. The Rhubarb software and OpenToonz are looking for 10 specific mouth shapes that it's going to use to generate the auto lip sync effect. So where do we get that information? I'm going to switch over to a browser here. I'm currently in the OpenToonz documentation. I have a link for all this stuff below. And you can see a template for what those drawings should look like. Pay close attention to how the drawings appear and the numbering of them. If we match that, it's going to make our lives a lot easier. So I used the information on this page to make these 10 drawings. The base image is 1080p. These drawings are all about 400 by 400. They do look a little different. One thing you might notice is they have this brown block behind them, and I'll show you why. If I skip back to our previous drawing, you can see that I drew a mouth on that drawing, and that was intentional, because when the speaker isn't speaking, and I'll pause for a second, I wanted the mouth to have the same wiggle effect. So that means that my mouth drawings need to make sure to block the mouth that's actually part of the base image. So that's what that brown is. It matches the beard color. You might also notice that drawings 7 and 10 are blank, and that's because we just want to use the baseline mouth image when we're making those shapes. Now, when you're making your mouth drawings, you can do it a different way. You can leave the mouth off the base image and then just draw 10 shapes and be done with it. But as we can see here, drawings 7 and 10 are identical, and they're both the same flat closed mouth shape. So that's the 12 drawings. Next, we're going to animate them in OpenToonz. So first we're going to install OpenToonz. Go to the OpenToonz page, click Download, click OpenToonz. Scroll down and select Download for Windows or for Mac OS. I'm not going to demonstrate the install process, just accept all the defaults and click Finish. But we have those 2 other packages we need to install. One is Rhubarb. Again, have the link for all of these below. I'm doing this on Windows. You can see that it's also available for other platforms. I'm going to download that and unzip it to a folder. Also important to keep track of where you unzipped it, because we're going to need to tell OpenToonz. The final piece of software is FFmpeg. So we go to this site, go down to Packages, click Windows, select builds from either of these links, and just choose the Essentials build. That's a 7-zip file, so make sure you have something that can unzip that. Unzip it to a folder, and again, keep track of that folder. So now we need to configure OpenToonz. Let's launch OpenToonz. We're going to create a new project. That's your master file, right? You're going to have a lot of different scenes within a project. So we'll just call this project Animated Presenter. We'll leave all of this at the default. Click OK. And let's create a new scene. And I'm going to call this one Main because it's our main view. I've configured all of the drawings to work at this resolution, so I'm going to leave that alone. I do prefer a 30 frame per second animation for reasons I won't get into here. And click Create Scene. Let's maximize. Expand this out a bit. All right, let's do the configure. We're going to go to File and Preferences. Go to Auto Lip Sync. I've already got it configured, but if you want to configure it yourself, click on the 3 dots and browse to the folder where you unzipped the Rhubarb program. Click Choose. We need to do something very similar for FFmpeg, so click on Import Export. There's the path. Click on the 3 dots and choose the path where the FFmpeg.exe file is and click Choose. All right, so that's all the configuration. So everything we've done now, we only need to do once. We've created our 12 drawings, we've installed our software, and we've configured it. So we don't need to do that for every single animation we create, obviously, or at least I hope it's obvious. I'm not doing my job if it's not obvious. All right, let's take a look at the main interface here with OpenToonz. What you're seeing here is the camera view. It shows you exactly what the final animation should look like. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot we can do with this. This is very powerful software. We're only taking advantage of a tiny fraction of its capabilities. Over here in the upper right, you can see we have this grid, and the columns represent frames. So frame 1 through frame 30, that's going to be 1 second of animation. And when you go from left to right, those are the layers of the image. So for example, you might have your mountain and sky on column 1, and then in front of that, you might have some homes, and in front of that, you might have your characters, right? Those are the different layers because you can move them and animate them independently. So with that in mind, we're just going to put our main background image right here in column 1. Here are the 12 images. If you look closely, you can see I used a very specific naming convention. That's BG for background, dot, 4-digit number. And when you introduce files with that naming convention into OpenToonz, it's automatically going to generate an image sequence. So let's drag BG0001 into that first frame of column 1. And as you can see, it imported all of those images, simplified the names for us, and created something called a level. This level is just kind of a container of images that you can put into any frame. So we've got our background image. Next, we're going to drag our mouths up there. And in fact, we don't even need to drag 0001. I'm going to drag 0008. Let's see what happens. Does the same thing. It recognized the naming convention and created an image sequence. And in fact, it created a level with all of those mouth shapes in it. It's going to make things a lot easier for us, as we'll see in just a moment. Next, let's bring in some audio. So I've got a pre-recorded audio here. I'm going to drag that up to column 3. Make sure that there's audio in it just by scrolling down. There we go. There is something there. That's good. And I like to have this at the baseline, so I'm just going to drag this over to where column 1 is now. There we go. We could do our lip sync right now because we have our mouth shapes and we have an audio file. Hopefully you're seeing what I'm seeing, and that is the mouth is just sitting there right in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to select the first frame of the mouth column and tap on the A key, which is for animation. And that's going to allow us to change the size and the position of the images within that frame. I do want to go up to where it says position here, change that to all, because before it would just drag us around, but now we have a multi-tool. So we can drag it around, and we can click on that corner box and resize it. I'm going to zoom in, get it in the right position. All right, we can test this by just going back and forth. Does that look good? I'd say it looks good enough. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and do our lip sync. All you need to do is click on any frame in this column. Select lip sync and apply auto lip sync to column. Now look at this. So this is where our prep work pays off. So we have all of our mouth shapes automatically in the right box because we were careful about matching that template drawing to a T. And it will automatically detect any audio column. Since we only have one audio track, all of our mouth images look fine. All we need to do now is hit apply. Although there's one more button here. It's called extend rest drawing to the end. What this does is if the video extended far beyond the length of the audio, it just ensures that the mouth is in the resting state for all that time when there actually is no audio to accompany it. So we're going to click on that and click apply. We can already see that it's different. Let's go ahead and hit play.
Hey everybody, I'm back again with another tutorial.
Okay, mouth looks good. Background disappeared though, so we need to scroll up and finally finish our animation by animating the background. It's going to be very easy. So I have found that at 30 frames a second, holding each image for 4 frames creates the best effect. You can experiment with 2 frames or 3 frames. If you just went back and forth 1 frame each, it doesn't look like wiggling. It looks like a weird vibration. That's an interesting effect, but that's not what we're going for. All I need to do is click on this nub and drag it down so that BG1 lasts for 4 frames. I'm going to do the same with BG2. Now I just need to make that pattern repeat all the way to the end of the file. So I'm going to scroll down and find the last frame in the audio track. And that's at 4995. So I go back to the top, select this entire block by clicking on the bar on the left side of this block of frames. That's going to select that entire block of contiguous frames. Then right-click, select Edit Cell Numbers, repeat, and where it says up to frame, I'm just going to substitute in 4995 and click Apply. I'll go up to the top and hit play, see how it looks.
Hey everybody, I'm back again with another tutorial.
I really like the way that looks. I'm happy. In fact, we're done. Okay, we're not going to render right away, but I do want to check the render settings under Render and then Output Settings. You can see that the name is set to main. That's the name of our scene. And it's set to TIFF, which is just a series of images. We want to drop that down to MP4. I'm not going to hit render, I'm going to hit close, because one thing I always do before I render is save. So I'm going to do File, Save All. OpenToonz is a magnificent piece of software. It also can be a little bit unpredictable. In fact, I recommend setting up autosave in this just by going into Preferences. But I always save before I render, because rendering is when things can get a little unpredictable. So I hit Save All. Now I go to Render, Output Settings, and then Render. It's not usually that fast. I did a little fast forwarding there. Let's go and find that file. You can see that it says it's saved into Outputs, but let's find this the directory where Outputs is. When you install OpenToonz, it creates a folder called OpenToonz Stuff, and then under that is Projects. There's our new project, Animated Presenter, Outputs, and there is our video file.
Hey everybody, I'm back again.
So just to go over it again, in Animate we configured OpenToonz to work with Rhubarb and FFmpeg. We then added the images to the timeline. We added audio. We ran the lip sync. And finally, we rendered. I could end the video right there, but you may have noticed one other thing. I'm blinking. I consider this part entirely optional, but I like the effect. We're going to create 2 more drawings and then just add it to our animation. So here's the first drawing. You can see it's a giant transparent drawing with a little bit of background color underneath some sleepy looking eyes. I have a second image, which is basically the same, except now the eyes are closed. It looks weird here, but I created this by using a new layer on top of the original drawing. So when we look at the original drawing, when I superimpose the drawings over this image, you can see that I get a little bit of blinking action. So now all I need to do is drag those into the interface. So I'm using the same file. I'm going to drag in these eye pictures the same way we did with the other ones. And all I need to do is create little blink sequences throughout the animation. Good to keep in mind that humans blink randomly between 2 and about 10 seconds. So you don't want it to blink, once per second or something that's an obvious rhythm, because people will notice that and it'll seem weird. So I'm going to start at about 70 frames in. That's a little more than 2 seconds. And my sequence is going to consist of sleepy eye, closed eye. I'm going to do 2 frames on closed eye and then sleepy eye again. So that's my blink. And that looks pretty good. And that should play nice at full speed. So that's one blink. So I can just actually select it by clicking on that same bar, copy it, and then just paste. I'm going to paste it 2 or 3 more times at random intervals. I'm not going to go through the entire file, but I want to create some randomness up front, and then I'll repeat that process. So I'm going to scroll down to about 200, paste one there, scroll down to about 270, paste it there. Now I'm going to select from the bottom frame all the way up to the top and repeat this to the end. So right click, edit cell numbers, repeat to 4995, apply, and close. So let's just hit play on this.
Hey everybody, I'm back.
There we go. All right, now I could re-render this and it's basically the same video except I'm blinking every so often. Now one other thing we can do, and this isn't anything new, I'm just going to create some new scene drawings, because once we do that lip sync, it doesn't really matter what the background is, right? So it's going to be easy to just add a new scene. And by using a close-up scene such as this one, it's going to add a little bit of variety to your video. So I create 2 new scene drawings. And you can go ahead and then create 2 new blank drawings, whatever you want to do, but certainly the new scene drawings are going to be helpful. Now before I change into a new scene, I do want to first save this scene and then click Save Scene As and give it a new name. So I'm going to call this one Close-Up. I'm going to delete the previous background drawing and drag in the new one called BG4 and 5. So I drag in that. Now because it already had some files called BG, so I'm just going to click Rename New File. It's just safer. And you can see of all the drawings that I had in that set, it was a little bit messy. I had about 6 drawings. I only need 2 of them for this. I'm going to just go ahead and drag over 4 and 5 and delete the rest. And of course, that needs to be underneath the mouth. So I'm going to drag that over. I'm going to extend 4 and 5 by 4 frames apiece. Then repeat them all the way to the end. Click Apply. Now let's test it out.
Hey everybody, I'm back.
Oh boy, the mouth is in the wrong place. All right, that's easy enough to fix. I can go up to the top frame, click on the mouth, use the Animate tool, set to all, and just drag it around and resize it until it's in the right spot. Again, always make sure you're on the first frame for this part. That looks good.
Hey everybody.
So there we go. So I can go ahead and render this out as an entirely new scene because it has the same exact audio track. It'll be perfectly aligned with that first scene. So it should be really easy to go into a video editor and switch back and forth between these 2 scenes. And that's what the easy reuse is about. So it's really easy to create multiple angles for your primary speaker. And if you want to make an entirely new video, you can go into that original video, save it as a different name, swap in a new audio track, and then resync the mouths. And then just make sure everything runs all the way to the end. That's basically the entire process. Hope you found this useful. I wish you nothing but the best, and thanks for watching. Bye.